So, hello everyone. I guess everyone can hear my voice. If you can, so you can just start putting yes on the chat. Yes. Okay. So, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Navigating the AI Evolution, a new learning paradigm for the future of work. Thank you for joining and our exciting discussion about the intersection of AI and learning in our evolving workspace. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our speaker and our moderator for today. Our speaker is Amith Vincent, our founder and managing partner with over 2 decades of experience in learning consulting and business management. Amit brings invaluable insight for his work with industry giants like Microsoft, Converges, and Digital Think. His expertise in organizational learning strategy and business success makes him uniquely qualified to guide us through today's discussion. Joining him is Kavitha, our Director of Learning Experience Design. Kavita's impressive 2 decade journey in learning consulting includes significant contribution to leading organizations such as Microsoft, NIIT, and Satyam. Her comprehensive understanding of learning design and implementation will provide us the invaluable perspective on the future of learning. In today's discussion is moderated by Visakhananda or Vishak as he is known to many. With over 16 years of experience in instructional design, Vishak has created impactful learning solutions for some of the world's largest corporate organizations. His passion for understanding learner psychology and creating experiential learning intervention will ensure our discussion remains focused and insightful. So, some of the ground rules I'll lay today for today's webinar is please ensure the Q&A feature for your questions. The chat feature is available for general comment. Questions will be addressed during designated QA segments. This session is recorded and will be shared with the registered participants. So let's make this session interactive and enriching for everyone. I'll now hand over to our moderator, Vishak. Vishak, it's over to you.
Thank you, Sid. It was really kind of you for the introductions. Hi, all. Really excited to be here. This is kind of our inaugural webinar that we are doing where all Kavitha, Amith, and I are part of this. And it's very exciting for us because we're currently in a particular space where there's a lot of changes happening with respect to AI. And that's also kind of changing how we view learning experiences, how we create learning experiences. So really excited to kind of get in over here. We have a lot of topics here for you, planned for you. So really looking forward to a very informative session that we can arrange for you. I know that Sid kind of covered a bit in terms of the who we are and Amith and Kavitha, but I'd like to take a little bit of time and kind of explaining. So Amith Vincent, as Sid mentioned, is one of the co-founders of Apposite, and I've known him for about 8 years now in my life that I've been in Apposite, and I think he is an amazing person when it comes to systems thinking, process design, thinking up of very innovative ideas that really impact our learning and development space. So really keen to hear his ideas on what's been happening within the learning and development space with respect to AI, impact of AI. We also have Kavitha over here. Kavitha, again, one of the co-founders of Apposite, and she brings in a lot of experience with respect to instructional design. So with respect to solutions that we create, I know Amith, a lot of others over here at Apposite, we kind of go really crazy in terms of the experience that we design. But whatever be the experience that we design, whether they are grounded in instructional design principles, whether they really make an impact for the learner, that's something that Kavitha really brings in. Extensive experience with instructional design in various companies really helps us kind of ground ourselves in the experiences that we create. So that's us. My name is Vishak. I am an instructional designer with about 16 odd years of experience. learning the ways of how to create really impactful learning experiences, and really stoked with today's session because it's got to do with AI. We all know that there's a lot of buzz around AI. We have been experimenting with tools also in the last 2 years since OpenAI came out with ChatGPT. So I think there's a lot to unpack here. Really excited. I'll just go through the agenda over here quickly so that all of you know that what's in store for the next 60 minutes. And I promise this next 1 hour is going to be really informative. We try to make it as educational and entertaining as possible. And if not anything, at least we promise it's going to be a fun 1 hour on a Thursday evening, so or Thursday morning for some guys. Yeah. So we are going to be looking at a little bit of an insight into what is happening in the world outside and how we are kind of moving away from a certain set of ways in which we have been handling learning and development, improving the human potential. So that's covered over here, and why traditional approaches don't really work as we go forward. We'll also be kind of looking at something called as the gravity of learning, because we noticed that of late, pushing learning experiences onto learners is not really doing the job. So we are trying to understand how we can build that gravity where learners are pulled onto learning experiences by themselves. We'll also be looking at the unlearning imperative, because it's very important to know that some of the existing ways of working is not really gelling with how things are moving in the AI space. So it's very important to make that space. First of all, we have to unlearn, and only then can we learn some of the new ways of doing this. So that's very important. We'll be moving into how we get into the future landscape of learning and development. And we're going to cover some very exciting themes over here with respect to how things are moving and how we can adapt ourselves as learning and development professionals. And we will end with some essential mindset shifts. That's what we are looking at, to kind of shift your perspective in ways so that it becomes beneficial in your own personal learning journey, as well as L&D people, how we can kind of design better learning experiences for everybody. So this is the whole agenda. Really looking forward to discussing a lot of these ideas with Amith and Kavitha over here. And yes, I believe you might have questions during this webinar. Please use the chat feature to kind of drop in your questions. If it's possible during the webinar, we would cover it. Otherwise, we would definitely cover it towards the end. All right. So here we go. I'll hand over to Amith. Amith, I think let's hear some views on what we are facing right now with respect to the AI revolution, as we call it.
Thank you, Vishak. And just a quick sound check is, am I audible? You can just give a quick thumbs up. Okay, awesome. So firstly, I know Siddhant and Vishak have welcomed you already, but personally, I'd like to welcome you for this webinar. As you already heard, this is an inaugural webinar from our side, and I think what you can expect in this webinar is is a lot of contextual information about the changing landscape. So you will probably not see a lot of practical implementations, and that's coming up in our future webinars. And we've designed it that way, that we want to introduce first the psychology of what is happening when there is a great shift in either technology, or in the way people are learning, or in the way learning is conducted itself. So this webinar, you can expect, is going to have a lot of context. Is going to have a lot of information about how things are changing. It definitely is going to have some really unique theories, right? That we have spent a lot of time cultivating in-house, and we're really happy to present it to you at a very contextual level. The practical implementations of this will follow in another webinar, so please be patient with us. If you see a lot of theoretical stuff, but are getting restless about, hey, show me how to implement this, it's going to come. Just hold your horses. So that's the expectation for this webinar. Having said that, I think I want to touch upon a couple of things which are going to be discussed in the next few slides. And let me start by giving an intro, saying that to say that AI is has entered into a world, into the learning industry, is an understatement. I think if learners are not utilizing it yet, then they will soon. But I know for a fact that learning development teams have already, across the world, have already either adopted some of the AI technologies for creating their products, or they are in the process of evaluating which AI tool works best for their processes and their clients. So it's safe to assume that AI has already penetrated the learning industry. Whether it has penetrated every learner, every kind of learner in every industry, uh, maybe not yet, but I think we are on our way there. But has it penetrated the learning development teams and the teams focused on ensuring effective learning should happen in a more technological way, in a very fast way, then I think yes, that is already happening. We are talking to various of our peers from the industry, and they all echo the same sentiment. We really need to be getting on the AI bus from a learning development point of view, right? So I think we're going to separate all along this webinar. You will see us trying to delineate the AI adoption for the learners and the AI adoption for learning development teams. And depending on who you are, if you are a consumer of this webinar from a learner's point of view, you will have an understanding of how that's evolving. If you are consuming this webinar from a learning development space, if you are a learning practitioner, then you will get some context about how things are evolving. So having said that, I think I've set the tone for this webinar. It's going to be how we are going to navigate the learning space in this new AI evolution. So Vishak, if you can move forward. So I think what we're trying to do is, as we move forward, is trying to understand the great shift that's happening. And we keep discussing this a lot internally, and we try to compare this with how there were great shifts earlier, right? Maybe some of you are still young to not have that great shift from non computer era to a computer era, and the non-internet era to an internet era. So this is nothing less. I think we are having that great shift. And if you look at what's happening right now, or let's take a few years back before AI, I think the whole world was into digital transformation. There are some organizations that are still catching up to digital transformation, which is great. But I think the focus was more on how to get a lot of these non-digital processes and systems onto digital, right? And from a learning standpoint, you would see that, hey, now that the digital transformation has happened, now how do we enable learners to be part of this digital transformation? The focus was how do we teach them, right? How to move, how to transition, right? That was kind of our focus. But with AI, what you will see is like the digital transformation is done, and with the evolution of AI, a lot of that digital processes which required a certain bit of human intervention is going to be lost, right? We're going to see a lot of these taken over by some of these AI processes. But does that mean the human intervention is not going to be there? It is going to be there, right? So that's where the human intervention is going to shift from thinking about how to use this digital product or how to use this technology to to a cognitive evolution of how best do I leverage this? What are the best things that I can put together to ensure that I have a solution that takes a week and get done in a minute. So I think that's the great shift in mindset that has happened, is not to know how to use these tools, but to know in your mind what are the different tools that are available and how can I stitch them all together to get the fastest possible result, right? You have these AI tools that allow you to do that. Let me take an example, right? If you want to create a video, for example, right? And as learning practitioners, we get that a lot. How do I create a video for my audience? Now the traditional way would be create storyboard, and then you send the storyboard for a graphics team, and then you have the video editors kind of do all of that, and take a couple of weeks, right? Now there are tools. Now the evolution, the cognitive evolution has to happen in the sense of that Amit, need to know what are the AI tools available for storyboarding, what are the AI tools available for graphic design, what are the AI tools available for video editing, what are the AI tools available for audio recording, and then in my mind I need to say, okay, how do I stitch it together, right? What prompts do I give which are most effective for each of these tools, right? It's not in terms of managing these separate teams or managing these teams either in an agile model or a waterfall model, but all that is going to go out of the window. And to an extent that, okay, what are the tools that I use, what is the best way to use the tool, that's going to be the cognitive issue. So if you see, when with this example, most of the work that's happening is not in terms of how do I use the tool, how do I get the best person to use, who knows the tool. The shift is going to happen in your mind. Okay, you probably, before you start your actual work, 80% of the time is going to be spent on what are the tools that are most effective, how do I use, or what prompts do I give in each of those tools to get the optimum result. Now, there are various cases where you're using DALI and for image generation, and based on the prompt, you either get something that you really are looking for, or you get something that's totally something that you are not looking for, right? So I think all of that now is going to move from as we start using these tools into your head, right? So the great shift now has to happen from, so let me put it this way, like if you take the computers, the great shift happened from paper to digital, right? And or rather the computer, and from digital, when the internet came, it went online, and from online it's directly going to go in your head, right? Because these tools are already available, they do all the work for you, you need to know how to. So that's the great shift from a digital transformation era to a cognitive evolution that needs to happen at this point. I want to stop here to check if Vishak or Kavitha have any points to add, or if you want to contradict, that's great. I'd love to get into a fight here about this.
One point that I had, Amith, is with respect to skills, right? I mean, a lot of people have this fear that when you go ahead, some of my job is going to go, or the skills that I'm currently working with is not going to be there. So that's one thing. Do you have any thoughts around that? Like, how does that change when you're moving over here into an AI based landscape? How does that?
Yeah, maybe I can say a little bit about that here. I think that fear was there when the whole digital transformation happened also, Vishak, because I think we were there during that time, right? I mean, when computers came in, and especially our parents and, our uncles and aunts and all, they were like extremely worried, how is it going to work now? Our computers have come into banks and, hospitals and everywhere, right? But then I think the moment when such transformation happens, right? New skills have to be acquired, because to use those technologies you need to have new skills. And I think that's where we started teaching this. So much of learning and development organizations and the training centers have come up with so many such trainings on teaching technologies, how to code and how to create applications and all that. Now that is that phase, and we are still there is still an overlap that's going on right now, right? I mean, we're still creating such kind of trainings and all, but in different formats. But now with AI taking over certain things, and humans are actually, at a point where they need to start learning new skills about, how to work along with these AI technologies and not just work by themselves. So it's a challenging situation for the L&D teams right now, because the skills that need to be acquired by their workforce in organizations are so varied and so and they're changing, like, today there is one technology in AI, tomorrow something else comes. Okay,
Yeah.
how will the workforce keep up to that kind of changing AI landscape? Okay, so
Yeah.
it is a big challenge for the L&D teams and also for individuals as such, right? I mean, like what Amit said, so many tools are coming, so many tools need to be used. I need to be upskilling myself to be able to use those skills. So I think it's a new set of skills that we need to acquire. But at this point, I wouldn't want to say that we will totally become, humans are going to become obsolete and everything is taken over by AI. I want to be positive, and I would say that we have to work along with AI and not let the AI take over. Maybe.
I have a very interesting perspective on that, Vishak, and I think and we get this question a lot from folks who talk to us about AI. Let me put it this way: that if you look at what currently prevails, or before AI, the skills, right, were unidimensional, right, or unidomain. Like if I'm an ID, right, I would do the ID work, right, or I would do only storyboarding. That is all my skills were limited to, right? Or if I'm a visual designer, I would just kind of do visual design. But now with AI and AI tools, my skills will become multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
Right? They
Yeah.
will become multidisciplinary. So, like I, as an instructional designer, can not just do storyboarding using these AI tools. I can also do graphic development. I can also, when I say do, I mean I can enable that, and I can get it done myself. Right? I can also ensure that I can get a video created myself. Right? So what that puts me is in a very unique position of being able to work across multiple disciplines
Yeah.
that earlier was not possible, right? Or if you had multi-skilled yourself, maybe yes, right? But if you look at the traditional model where you had separate teams and separate silos, each of them having the roles and responsibilities, and even if I had multiple skills, I had a dominant skill, right? Okay,
Right.
I'm an instructional designer who is also good at graphic design, right? But you just had one primary and say one secondary skill that you were good at. But now you have a complete array that you can build for just one person, right? You can be great at design. I mean, you are not. I mean, you can create a design, you can create a storyboard, you can create graphics, you can create a video, you can do your audio yourself, right? So more than being afraid, I would say this is a fantastic opportunity that people should just
Yeah.
grab, right? AI is now giving us an opportunity to be so multidisciplinary in so many different ways, and all of that, by just collapsing the timeline, right? So I think instead of being nervous or afraid about what the future holds in terms of jobs, I would say if we just open up our minds to the possibilities that i can I can be a multidisciplinary resource, then it just kind of so this is typically how an interview would happen, right?
Yeah.
No longer ask you, are you good in instructional design? Are you good in visual design? Are you good at creating a course? Right? It won't matter whether your primary skill is an instructional designer or your secondary skill is whatever. It doesn't matter, right? So the questions in the interview is going to be, can you leverage AI tools to give me a great course? Answer will be yes,
Yes.
right? So I think that's an opportunity that people should focus on. That's an opportunity people should capitalize, and I think that's fantastic. I mean, if you ask me, for us to be able to do that, there will be fears, right? But if you are if you're going to be held down by those fears, then I think you're going to miss the opportunity. So
Correct. I mean, ultimately, that's what evolution means, right? We step out from our space of comfort and kind of grow into what we are supposed to become. So I see that as a cognitive evolution. If you're looking at a multidisciplinary way of improving yourself, then obviously there is going to be that cognitive evolution in us. We have to reach that level. It's interesting because it kind of leads to the next this one where we are looking at a kind of a timeline in what we are thinking of with respect to skills. Um, Amit, you want to
yeah,
take?
and I think this is a great view for those who are looking at this. Is what are the present day skills, that are there right now, right? And you would see that the present day skills are your professional skills. And this is exactly what I was talking about. This is relevant to your current discipline, right? And that's really your starting point. Okay, if you have a professional skill, if you have a body of knowledge, you're at a great point, right,
Yeah.
in your life. I mean, if you know, if you're a good instructional designer, I keep coming back to the learning development example, because I know there are some folks who are from the learning development industry, and I think it's going to benefit them to understand that if you already have the at least working knowledge, or a theoretical knowledge of how things happen, and it's true for every industry, right? It's not agnostic that way. So if you have, then I think you have a great chance to leverage AI, in as less than 6 months, right? And what you will see is, for your professional skills and for the knowledge that you have, in 6 months, with the AI evolving, the timeline may be 6, or it may go to a year, depending on how soon these AI technologies evolve. But I think you're going to see that your capability to deliver the outcome that you're delivering right now is going to just fasten, is going to double, either in terms of quality, or it's going to shorten in terms of timeline. That is definitely going to happen, and we are experiencing it right now. In our content development capabilities, we are experiencing it, right? And this is going to be
6 months, I guess, right? I mean, we saw so many changes in the last 6 months. Yeah.
absolutely. And then the task now will be more than in terms of using these tools. I mean, apart from using these tools, a very important skill and very important talent will be how much you are updated with what's getting updated.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you are still stuck to tools A, B, C, and you feel they do the work for you, and you continue to use them for a year, you will have missed tools C, D, and E, that are probably released 2 months from now, right? So
Yeah.
your job, while you're getting updated, is to keep yourself updated as well, right? So that's going to be a very important thing.
True.
And then when you look at what's going to be the future 5 years down the line, and this is a very common question that gets asked, how is it going to be in 5 years? I mean, are we not going to have any human intervention at all? The way we do things is definitely going to change. The people who are doing what they're doing, they're definitely going to change their mindset in the way they do things. I think, again, Kavitha brought up an interesting example of banking sector, right? And that's a great example, particularly during the evolution of computers, because banking was so reliant on paper trails, right? And they couldn't get to the fact that if we move everything digital, and not have any paper trail, that something wrong may happen, or they may lose a lot of data or currency and so on. But I think if you look at what happened 10 years or 15 years into the evolution of computers or the evolution of internet, uh, is the entire banking system is online, right? And that's does that mean the bankers have gone obsolete? No, the bankers have evolved, right? The bankers have found ways to do things in a very, very smart way. Has the team reduced? Maybe, right? If you needed a 50-member team, maybe that's come down to 40, and that number has only reduced, maybe because the 10 of them decided they don't want to kind of upgrade themselves or update themselves, right?
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
It's
And
interesting, actually, Amit, because right now you're talking about 5 years down the line, but even like with the latest news, around 3 months or probably 4 months down the line, we are going to be encountering AI agents. And what this does is they are going to be completely doing all the tasks that we are doing currently using multiple tools. And all we need to do is just talk to the agents. So in a way, one of the big skills would be communication, how to kind of really communicate with the AI agents or, the models, how to get proper requirements set so that, it's very clear for the models and what we want. So my thing is that a lot of these skills are going to go, but there is going to be a lot of cognitive evolution and new skills that would come up, which are innately human. And so I guess, it's a responsibility for us to kind of, as learning and development professionals, to understand how do we teach the next generation of,
Yeah, yeah, and I think the next few slides, I think Vishak, that's what we're going to focus on, as to how do we make sure the traditional learning methodologies that we are still having. It's not that those have gone off or something like that, but I think those may not really be applicable, or they may not be effective going forward with the rate at which things are changing, and how people want to really learn about new things, and every moment, like today, for example, me, okay, I use some tool today to do something, and then tomorrow Vishak comes and tells me, Kavitha, there is another tool that is there. I said, okay, this is wonderful. Then I start exploring. Then there is another tool. While I'm exploring, there are new tools that are evolving. So the old methods of learning may not really work, and this is where we are trying to introduce a concept called the gravity of learning, which means you are naturally, you need to create an environment which pulls learners towards the knowledge, or rather than be putting things onto them. Vishak, if you go to the next slide, uh, I would want to talk about a few challenges that we face in the traditional push learning, which is mostly that we do of late. Okay, and not many organizations have gone into the pull kind of a learning, but we do see in being in this industry for so many years, we do see that a lot of our clients and a lot of our organizations are still going through mandatory trainings. Okay, like employees have to finish a set of mandatory trainings before they get into some new role, or they actually start doing some new processes. Okay, schedule sessions. There are a lot of schedule sessions where people are uh, very busy in their work schedules, but still they need to go and sit in some classrooms, attend some schedule sessions, come out of their day-to-day jobs, and then sit there, and they feel very restless. I'm very sure that there is something happening at their work, but then they need to sit through these sessions because they need to upskill themselves. Okay, now there are compliance driven trainings that a lot of organizations have, and how do people handle those kind of trainings? I mean, there again, it is mandatory to finish those compliance trainings, and only then get on to certain processes and certain job tasks. And we also are seeing that the amount of engagement and that limited engagement is an ongoing problem. I mean, when it comes to something that we are facing now, and something that is going to happen in the future because of the AI evolution, I think engagement with the learning interventions that we create is always been a challenge. And I think, as learning experience designers, we always look at making sure that, any kind of session or any kind of learning intervention is extremely engaging. And I think these are some of the, challenges that we are facing with the traditional push learning that we have. But will these strategies, or will these kind of push learning strategies will work in the new AI era? Maybe not. Okay, so we shall move on to the next slide, where
before we move on, no, Kavitha, I just wanted to say that the reason why I put this image over here is because it's not just the professional who is the learner who is kind of pushing out onto these kind of experiences. As an L&D professional, aren't we kind of facing this difficulty? How do we reach to our learner? How do we create an experience that really makes an impact for them? So in my head, this was more of the L&D professional who's kind of pushing against the rock. But yeah,
definitely, and instructional designers, yeah, always, yeah. So what we're trying to say is a concept called learning gravity or learning magnetism, okay, wherein we want the learners to get attracted to the learning or to the skills that are needed to perform in their jobs, and not that they are forced to take some trainings, or made to sit in some classrooms and all that. So one of the things that we're trying to say here, is the natural flow. So incorporate learning in such a way that it flows seamlessly into the work of an employee, or any person for that matter, into their day-to-day task. For example, if you take an example of someone is in the sales department using CRM tools, and then instead of they sitting through some set of trainings, pre-recorded trainings and all that about that CRM tool, maybe he's creating a new lead on the tool, and then he's maybe entering some data into that tool. Maybe over there it should we should, why don't we just send some small learning nuggets. Okay, it may not be a nugget, also a quick tip or something like that on how to handle a new lead, how to handle a new customer and a new relationship. Okay, and you are maybe you're coming to a situation where let's take an example of a shop floor. Okay, you are a sales representative, and then you are in the shop floor and trying to make sale with your customers and all that. Rather than you going through some organizations, teaching them some trainings, put them into some kind of sessions before they get onto the shop floor, based on the location where you are, right? Like, now the technology is so evolved that everybody has a smartphone. So you go to certain specific section of the store, and it recognizes where you are, and then it pushes some kind of content which is very, very location specific, and the kind of content that you would want to learn or you would want to refer to when you are in that spot. So make this kind of AI is evolving so much that the technology can be leveraged to create interventions which are so naturally weaved into the working process of the workforce. Okay, it can be any kind of workforce, but then it is totally embedded into the work, and that is what the second item that you're seeing here. So that nobody feels like I'm actually sitting through a training session, isn't it getting boring? Because me as a learner also, I'm an extremely what should I say, restless learner. I want something where as I'm learning, I want to learn things as I'm doing things, because I've been getting my hands dirty on many AI tools of late, and most of you would have seen that I'm putting a lot of posts on LinkedIn about what all experiences that I'm having and all that. And I'm extremely curious. Now, the curiosity driven, the third thing that you're seeing here, I think that's one thing that you have to really inculcate in your workforce. As L&D teams should build that kind of curiosity. And not just L&D teams, the organizations have to create that kind of atmosphere for a workforce where they're constantly curious about learning something, because that you have to be curious at this point, because there's so much going on. Nothing is going to come and fall in your lap right now. Okay, you have to be extremely curious, extremely explorative in terms of what is going on out there, how do I learn about it, how can I leverage it. So curiosity driven atmosphere, creating that kind of an environment is a big challenge for organizations and for L&D teams as well. And continuous growth, I think you people need to look at the mindset has to be like, I need to grow, because not that you'll have to keep pace with the technology, but yeah, in a way you have to, right? I mean, the technology is changing so rapidly. You can't just be like 3 months away from where the technology is then. Okay, so the rapidly changing the landscape will make you start feeling like I have to continuously learn, continuously grow. And I think and you have to continuously expand your knowledge and skills. And so for all of this to happen, traditional learning modalities may not work, because they need that kind of time and space and other things. But I think we need to attract people and make sure the learning is so woven into the learning, into the work processes and the steps, that you just don't even realize that you're doing it, but you're just doing it. Vishak and Amit, I'll just stop here and see if you guys have any thoughts on this slide and the learning magnetism concept as such.
I think it's a great concept for both learners as well as learning development professionals to understand and appreciate, right, the level of magnetism that's involved, particularly for the learning development professionals, because the magnetism is something that they need to think about in every instructional strategy, in every learning strategy that you devise, depending on which audience or which client or which industry that you're catering your solution to. Because learning magnetism is agnostic of all of this, and it basically goes a lot deeper to the psychology, of the fact that, either on their own or through external triggers, they feel the need to start learning, or they feel attracted towards learning, right? And let me give you a couple of examples. One is, if on their own is, when they feel the need that, as you said, that I'm not growing enough, right? Or they feel the need that, hey, I probably am in the wrong job, right? Or they say that, oh, I need to get into a new job, so I need to learn certain skills to be able to achieve my goals, right? And that's learning on their own. Now, learning magnetism can also be driven through external triggers, right? And that is where our gamification plays a huge role. That is where your just-in-time learning plays a key role. And let me give you a couple of examples, right? And you're commuting by train, and then you just either TikToking or Instagramming, and then suddenly you get a small little alert from, let's say, your LMS or from your EdTech app saying that, hey, why don't you complete, you have a 7-day streak, why don't you just take a quick quiz, and that you don't have to go anywhere, but just answer this quick question just as a refresher of what you learned yesterday. That's, I think, a great way of triggering learning and ensuring that the magnetism is built, right, in very, very micro quantities, but in a very in obtrusive way. And we'll talk a little bit more about in one of the later slides. But I think learning magnetism can either be built, uh, uh, you know internally, or learning magnetism can be built through external triggers. But I think the internal factor sometimes is usually motivated by certain changes in professional career, or some changes in your goals, aspirational goals. But as learning development professionals, I think we need to see how can we build these triggers of learning magnetism throughout the learning experience for the learner, whether you're creating a 1 hour learning, or you're creating an entire curriculum, or you're just creating a platform, right? So I think if we can focus on that, I think not a lot is happening. It's happening to some extent, but I think I personally would like to see a lot of this happening. It's not easy, because it transcends across technologies, right? Like, what if I want to send a pop-up on your WhatsApp, right? On
I
learning.
have an interesting analogy for this, Amit. Sorry. That recently I was like just discussing with Kavitha, I think, with regards to this webinar itself, like a practical analogy for learning magnetism. Think about the usual marketing strategies that we see with products, right? Like, for example, Apple, it creates a phone, and it just doesn't release the phone into the market. It creates a lot of content around online, creates those communities to kind of make sure people understand what are they buying, what are they getting, what can they do with that device. Think about something like that, if we can achieve with learning, where for each learning experience we create that kind of a buzz, which is a good buzz that helps the learner understand this is exactly what I need right now, right here. And those nudges and those kind of triggers by which they get pulled into it, those exist right now because of technology, because of our AI, because of our mobile phones. We are living in a connected environment where we can get these kind of nudges. So I'm thinking of it this way, like magnetism is where we create that environment where learners are pulled into those products, or those experiences, using these kind of nudges and such. I have an interesting thing to share over here. Let me just see if I can pull that up. Kind of a transformation success story, but more of like a, we're still kind of working on it. So this is somewhere where an oil and gas safety company that we are working with a client, and they have their, how safety trainings go. It's a mostly mandated, compliance driven, and not always very well designed as such. So what we are trying to do is we are working with them to kind of understand what is the top-down approach that we can, give them. And we are working with them right now. It's in the analysis and design phases. But what we are trying to see is how to create that environment where employees start asking, or the participants for the trainers start asking for, this is what I need. And for them to do that, they need to understand the overall business goal. They need to understand their context within the system. So it's important that we give those insights to the learners, make them understand that this is the path that they need to take, and thereby they kind of ask for these opportunities. They start hunting for them. We see that, right? I mean, when we get onto platforms like Netflix or Prime or whatever, the idea is we have a theme for the movie or theme for the experience that we have, and basis that we kind of go ahead and search for these experiences. Same way, why can't we create an ecosystem where learners come in and say that this is exactly what I need, and through that we create those personalized development plans where each person is different, each person would have a different purpose or a context that they're working with. So try and create personalized journeys for learners where they can kind of experiment. And ideally, the last part is about creating that psychologically safe, secure environment in organizations where it's okay to fail, it's okay to experiment with skills and new tools, and take some risks. And with AI, at least I'm seeing a huge influx in simulated environments where we can drop the learner in a very immersive simulated environment, take risks, go ahead, invest your money, invest your time. Doesn't matter, because it's the consequences are created in that sandbox environment. So that's another thing that we're working with, and we are like hoping that this would kind of lead to very structured transformation that we can bring in for all other clients, whoever is interested. This is definitely the future, and I think it's important that we see it and move that way. This is, I guess, the next space where we kind of understand, if we are to learn this, what kind of initiatives we need to take as both learners as well as L&D people. Kavitha, I think, did you want to kind of check on this?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's Amith, yeah.
So I think a lot has been said about unlearning, and I think unlearning is a term that we hear a lot, particularly if you're a learning development professional. You would have heard, particularly if you are a instructional designer, you would have heard a lot more than others. If you're a learner yourself, you would have seen endless TikTok and Insta videos, or you'd have read a lot about how before you learn, you need to unlearn your current skills. So I'm not going to go into the depth, and we're just going to talk about few points that we feel are relevant from an unlearning point of view. And Vishak, if you can move to the next slide. I think the paradox of expertise is something that we really want to call out when it comes to unlearning. And there are three core areas when we talk about the paradox of expertise. And the first one, and all of them, roundabout, talk about the same thing. But I think, if you look at, how your own strength does become a barrier, right? How your own expertise in a particular area, or your expertise or your number of years of experience in a particular field, obviously makes you an expert in that field, or someone who has a lot of expertise in that field. It makes you an authority after a point, and when you believe you are an authority, then it becomes all the more difficult for you to kind of unlearn all what you've learned, right? And I think that's a very interesting perspective to keep in mind, that if I am an instructional designer today, if I'm a graphic designer today, and I've been doing instructional design for past 20 years, and I've been storyboarding, and if you come and tell me, what, the new way is not to do storyboarding anymore, right? There's something else. So I think from fundamentally as a human being, you will try and resist that, right? And that's what the second piece talks about. That is, your mental models, itself limit your growth. And I was, I personally, I want to share one experience when ChatGPT came in the first week. I was devastated, right? In the sense that it could dish out an entire articles and essays and things that I personally took a lot of pride in saying that I do that really well. I write really well. I can write pages and pages of essays or blogs or whatever, right? And here's someone who probably couldn't write too well, do it just as well or even better in a matter of seconds, right? Well, I would take probably an hour to write a page. The same thing can be done in a minute. And it was really in a way it had a big jolt saying that, hey, what's happening, right? Maybe this is not true. So there's that stages that of acceptance that happened, that in the first one was denial, saying that, oh, this is not going to last,
Yeah.
right? But I think we all have to overcome that. As an if you're an expert, you have to realize that you're an expert, and by being an expert in the field, it gives you the responsibility to adopt to whatever is new there, right? And that's how you continue being an expert, right? So your mental model should not limit your own growth, but should add on to your expertise, right? That's something that is very important for unlearning. Is we are at a stage where you might have to unlearn a whole lot of things. Like, and I go back to the storyboarding example, because you might not have to do storyboard either. And the decision about doing it in Word or PPT probably is no longer relevant, right? Because the decision of doing a storyboard itself probably is not, or you're doing a storyboard yourself is not relevant anymore, right? So you probably need to unlearn about how you were doing that and do something else, right? Or do it in a different way, but you still get the same result. So that's the second aspect of your mental models itself limit your own growth, and then you need to overcome that. And the third one is your comfort zone. So you are comfortable doing it in a certain way. So you just say, I continue doing that, and why should I look at the latest tool that's available, which I maybe will be overtaken by another tool, right? So I think that's like your comfort zone, restricting your own innovation because you're not using the best and brightest that's out there, right? You're still relying on the age old methodologies, which probably is going to limit your growth. So I think that's so these three pillars actually make up the entire paradox of expertise, which I think is not an easy battle, but it's a battle that all learners have to win, and all learning development professionals have a responsibility to ensure that the learners overcome this paradox. Any thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I think I would want to say something here is like, uh, unlearning and learning something new, even for a person like me, I mean, who wants to constantly keep learning. Whenever Vishak comes and talks to me and says that, I think we need to really change the way we are developing some things, Kavitha, maybe we can do it faster and more efficiently, then my immediate reaction is to, tell him that, no, Vishak, that's going to create a lot of problems and all that. But I think with the kind of changing landscape, it's really, really imperative for us to unlearn certain things. And because we're so young, especially for people with 20 years of experience or 25 years of experience in certain areas, right? I mean, we have to come out of that comfort zones and start thinking differently, and start thinking out of the box. And I rely a lot on many people out there on LinkedIn, and especially Vishak, Amith, and all that, to really know what's new out there, and how do I adapt to what is happening out there. And I would say that L&D teams, all of the new age workforce, I think, should get out of their comfort zones of their current dominant skills and really look at the new skills that are there, and start upskilling themselves. Yeah. Chuck?
I guess, and that actually leads to the next of what we mean by unlearning. And here are some 4 things, right, Kavitha, that we can kind of work on in terms of unlearning.
You can move your slide, sure.
Has it not moved? I moved it
No,
to.
it's currently showing the paradox of expertise.
Still stuck?
Yeah.
Let me just stop sharing until. I know we are a little kind of behind time. I hope we are okay with kind of. Let me know
Is
if you're
that?
in the screen.
Yeah, we can, Vishak.
Yeah. I think again we've learned what are the paradoxes of unlearning. I think it's let's delve just a minute or two about the psychology of unlearning, right? Again, few of these things we've already discussed in the previous slide, where you have an identity attachment. That is, you have your certain beliefs, right? You have certain behaviors that you want to continue, right? And you also want to give to the next generation, right? You want them to do the same thing when probably they will figure out a better way of doing the same thing. But so that's the identity attachment that goes on in your mind. Like if I were to teach someone else, I'll probably teach the way that I'm comfortable with, right? The old way, the traditional way, right? So that is something that goes on when you are trying to unlearn. Then resistance patterns is again something we spoke about in the mental models in the previous slide. You obviously resist what when you are presented with something new and different, and say that no, I don't want to the new way, the old way is good enough, right? And yes, you can take that approach, or you can just try out a newer one. And the biggest justification to those who resist is that maybe the new one will not last long enough, right? Why should I move on to the new one when the old one is tried and tested and it works really well? And you have the adage of why fix something that's not broken yet, right? So all those things go on in the mind. So I think but I think all those need to be overcome. And then safety needs is a very interesting point, as uh, you feel comfortable as a person, right? You always tend towards your area of comfort or a sphere of comfort, right? As someone said, we are all creatures of our comforts, right? uh, and it's true in the professional space as well, right? If you are comfortable doing something the way you're doing it, you probably feel safe there, right? You probably feel secure doing that because you know how to do that the best. So I think you feel unsafe or you feel threatened when you move into a newer kind of a space. So I think that's what happens from a psychology point of view. But I think if you overcome these psychological barriers, I think the growth opportunities, both professional and personal, are tremendous. And I think that's what we're trying to address here.
I think one thing that I wanted to call out is while this is heavily, and we keep talking about this unlearning again and again, and it's applicable to individuals as such, as we are learners. But what about as learning and development professionals, as instructional designers, right? I keep thinking we keep building the same e-learning modules, we keep building the same instructor-led training modules, but maybe it's time we start moving away and try understand that there are these AI tools, there are these frameworks by which we can build really good learning environments and such. We can provide that kind of psychological safety to the learners so that we make sure that they are able to experiment and learn as such. So it's for us as learning and development professionals also, when we are creating these experiences, to understand that it's important for us to unlearn, move away from our old ways of doing things, and explore something new. So that, I think, that moves into uh, some bits around practical approaches to unlearning. Amit, do you want
Great.
to
Yeah,
just.
this is a great slide that I really like to talk about. And this is actually the answer to how, if you really want to unlearn, what are some really practical tips that we can tell you. And I think Each one has their own path. Each one navigates the unlearning journey in their own way, differently, in their own timeline. But if you look at a pattern across the people who successfully unlearn, you will see, these inherent qualities or inherent traits that they've kind of, applied. So first one is to challenge the assumptions, right? So if, and this is not, true only when there's a new technology or when you have to learn something new. I think this is always true, and you will always be ahead of the curve if you challenge the assumptions, on a regular basis, right? If I am doing things, in a certain way, and with the AI evolution, it becomes all the more important. If I'm using an AI tool today to build something, you constantly have to challenge or ask yourself, is there a better tool to do this, right? Is there a couple of tools that will help me do this faster and better with higher quality, right? So always challenge the assumptions that maybe a tool or B tool is the best right now, but how much will you challenge, or periodically, is there a number? There's no set number, and I would say, at least the way things are evolving, at least every couple of months you should ask yourself if whatever tool you're doing and the process that you're following is the best at this point. um, Second one practical tip that I would really say is, you may be going down a path, right, which you think is right, but there may be others who probably figured, that out for you, already. And I think, uh, and I'd like to take my personal example of, of me reaching out to Vishak, as a feedback. Is if I am going to use a tool, I quickly check with Vishak, because I know Vishak does a similar exercise of looking, at multiple tools, to increase efficiency. Is, hey, is there a tool that's better than this? And this is something that, we at Apposite, at least, we try to practice this on a regular basis, saying that, is there a better tool, that can help us, crunch the timeline? Is there a better tool that can give us a better quality? And then as a result, what we realized is, we found in a particular domain, let's say even for audio too, right? There are plenty of tools out there, right? Which is the best that gives not just the best quality, but in terms of regional languages, which has the best accent. A lot of these answers get questioned, right? When you say that, hey, I found this great tool, let's use this tool, and then somebody says, hey, you know what, that tool is outdated now, let's use this tool.
Yeah.
And you'll be shocked, saying, hey, I just, this tool just came out a couple of months back. Yeah, that's old news, right? So that's how fast things are evolving. And then it's extremely important that you have your inner circle, so to speak, that you always bounce off these ideas. So have these smaller circles, among yourself, right? It may be in your team, it may be a group of friends, it may be, some close confidants, whoever that may be. But if you are constantly adopting and unlearning and learning new things, then create this feedback loop. What it does, it not just tells you what are the good things to learn, or what new things are the best, but also tells you that if you really have to unlearn at that point, maybe you don't need to unlearn at that point, right? Maybe the tool is not developed enough, maybe the tool is not stable enough, or the process is not stable enough, right? You will get that feedback saying that, hey, hold on to your current practices, don't unlearn yet, because probably there's some news out that, that is a major change happening in that particular tool. And because most of these tools, you have to realize that, most of the tools are being developed by organizations that are still developing themselves, right? As an organization, they're all a year old or 2 years old, right? So you don't know which direction, the organization itself will take, right? Whether this is going to be a focus area for that organization or not. So it becomes very important for you to just share this with your inner circle, to get some kind of a feedback.
Validation.
Yeah. And the third one is, pretty phenomenal, if you ask. Is, and we touched upon this briefly by saying, do we do this periodically? I mean, do we build unlearning rituals, right? Do we set a timeline that every month I'm going to unlearn? Do we set, a specific process saying that, okay, I'm going to document, whatever new things I learned, and the next month I'm going to come back and then see if that's still relevant. whatever works for you, right? You need to build that unlearning ritual, right? It may just be as simple as going to LinkedIn and just just reading about the folks that you follow, right? Who are doing a lot of research in this space. What are they talking about, right? And particularly when it comes to AI news, there are fantastic resources out there, newsletters that are coming up on LinkedIn. There are sites like the dailyainews.com that really give out what's the latest and greatest out there, right? So I think if you don't have them on your bookmark, please make sure you have them. There's something called AI News as well. That's ainews.com that dishes out a lot of AI news. Again, it'll be a little bit of task to filter something that's relevant to your industry, but I think it's well worth the time and create a ritual around it. And while all of this is happening, particularly because as I mentioned, a lot of things may evolve on a monthly basis, a lot of new things may come. You have to embrace the uncertainty that is going to hit you, right? It's not something that you can say for certainty that, hey, this is going to stay for 25 years, right? It may not, right? ChatGPT may be there, may not be there. We don't know how that journey will evolve, right? And ChatGPT is well funded, right? OpenAI rather is well funded, right? And you don't know if that is going to evolve, right? So if you can imagine, if you're talking about this about the OpenAI, some of the smaller companies that are building these tools that are very relevant to the learning industry, we don't know what direction they'll take, right? So, but that's okay, right? Because that will get replaced by something good, something better, right? Or even if it doesn't, you just need to know how to evolve, right? And that's what learning is about, is you play the cards that you're dealt with, right? So embrace the uncertainty, go into the future knowing that it's going to change, right? Knowing that it's going to be very different than what it was yesterday or a month back. Any thoughts, guys?
Yeah, especially regarding the feedback loops thing, Amit, that you were speaking about tools, right? I mean, how when we are using specific tools, but I think it applies in a generic way, not just tools. Because I remember specifically, it's very easy for me, as I guess for a lot of other people, to work in silos. When we have a particular requirement, we think, yes, this is the perfect way to go about it, and I build out a strategy. How many times have I come to you and to Kavitha and to kind of check, is this strategy working out? And that's when getting another person, your opinion or Kavitha's opinion, kind of gives me that feedback that no, maybe you're not thinking about it in this way, or maybe this consequence might come out if you do it in this way. So feedback loops, not just for tools, but for pretty much anything that we do in a professional sense or what we are doing, I think that really counts. It gives us a different perspective, and that's what we are looking out here. We are trying to get a different perspective and shift our own perspective. So feedback loops, I think, is a very big thing for us, both for as a learner as well as for L&D folks as well. I just wanted to kind of call that out.
Absolutely.
Think, yeah, so this is me. I just wanted to kind of touch base on it really quick. I want to kind of understand. So we are kind of entering a new future landscape, right? We are right now looking at tools that are really becoming smarter. I mean, we as human beings, we always work with tools, but right now the tools that we are working with since the last 2 years, since the last 6 months, the things that are coming out are highly evolved. They are able to reason, and they are able to kind of assist us, right, with our own workflows and day-to-day lives. So it's something like beyond tools to we are transforming our lives in a different way. And so this means that we will need to kind of understand what exactly is happening, the ways in which we are supposed to go. And this kind of leads out to one of my core areas that we are exploring right now at Apposite, on what exactly is learning. And one of the frameworks that you're exploring is incognito learning. The idea is this, if I were to put it in a very simple sense, as children, I mean, when we were kids, how did we learn about gravity? We didn't go take a course, or we didn't go and watch a video or anything, right? We dropped something on the ground, fell down, it broke. Our mothers kind of shouted at us or something. But we learned about it. We learned the hard way that gravity exists, that if you drop something, it's going to fall down. So same way, I mean, think about as instructional designers or as learning designers, how do we kind of create that kind of an experience that seamlessly moves into the learners' lives? It kind of helps them understand, yeah, it's as simple as this. Like if I learn about this, it falls in place, it clicks. So that seamless, highly invisible way of learning is something that we need to move back in. So far, we have been kind of moving in that scripted, forceful way of, getting our learners to learn. Try and move into this kind of a methodology where, we create learning experiences that are very seamless for our learners. Same way, it may look similar, woven into work, where we are kind of um, bringing down the boundaries between learning and work. What this means is that a lot of times what we learn is very theoretical. We go into classes, we look at simulations, and we see that, okay, fine, this is how a task needs to be done, or this is how a certain behavior needs to be inculcated within ourselves. But the why behind it, that really helps. The context behind it really helps. And also getting into it, like rather than learning something, if I were to say build something, and in that process I keep learning. For example, AI tools help you kind of build pretty much anything. This particular presentation I have created in a tool called Gamma. So what happens is that I go ahead and create something. I can't use it as it is, because obviously it's created by AI. There's probably going to be hallucinations and various other things that we don't know if it's going to be accurate. So it's my human capability, my subjective first person experience that is going to tell me that what this AI product has created, is it really going to be worthwhile? Is it accurate? So I need to kind of upskill myself. I cannot just depend on that first product that came in. So that's where I try it out. I know that, okay, this is not working out. App design or some solution that I've created using this thing, AI, is it really working out? To understand that, I need to upskill myself. So when you start experimenting, when you start getting into challenges and problems, I guess automatically there are ways in which we will start searching for new information, new learnings by which we can upskill ourselves. That's what I mean by, woven into work. We don't create a separate space for learning. We learn while we work. Um, the last two is more in terms of like natural growth, where just like how I said about when we get into that subject matter, when we get into that actual project, that's where our innate curiosity, our the feedback loops that we are talking about, where we talk to people, we learn new perspectives from them. This leads to a natural growth, and it's happening very seamlessly, very continuously, that we don't feel it's a separate process altogether. And that actually helps us, because our learning reflexes, the more we put ourselves out there, the more we kind of experiment with things, we would kind of build in those reflexes within us, so that the next time we see something which is uncertain, the next time we see something which is outside of our comfort area, we learn. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's, yeah, Kavitha.
Yeah, Vishal, I want to add one perspective here. I mean, when it comes to incognito learning, uh, one is, you as a learner or you as a person is interested to learn, and while you've used Gamma for this, but what are the other features of Gamma that you can use, and you learned it, right? But what if the curiosity is not there in a learner, right? So that's when these AI technologies, right? I mean, we could build some AI agents which will come and nudge you, without you, while you're doing, okay, looks like you're creating something, why don't you try something like this? Okay, why don't you go and talk to someone who's already done something like this? I'm very sure, with the kind of technology that we have right now and intelligence that AI is giving us, it can really read the context in which different workforce or different people are working, and try to connect them, and that's where the whole incognito learning happens, right? I mean, the agents are just slyly going in and checking what people are doing, and putting them in situations and making those connections, and then and then you are not naturally learning, right? In the process, you're just learning, rather than me going into an LMS, logging in, and going through specific training on how to create presentations on Gamma dot app. So I think this is a very, very, very interesting concept, Vishak, and I'm really thankful that you brought this up and you are really exploring on this concept. And I think a lot of us actually use this, but none of us really have put in that kind of thought about this incognito learning as such. And with in the AI landscape, this is really going to go, far. I feel, yeah.
Yes, it is, Kavitha. I
Yeah.
mean, especially when we are looking at AI agents and such, and I just can't stop talking about this because there's news
Yeah.
from everywhere, all places, Anthropic, your OpenAI, they're all saying that it's coming out in the next, a month or so. So when that comes in, then again, our way of interfacing with these tools is going to change. We are not going to be clicking on buttons and moving mouses. We're going to be like, prompting them either through conversation or through videos or through this thing. So then it's important that we understand that, our way of thinking, our way of learning changes automatically over there. So yeah.
And as learning experts, how do we leverage these AI agents to make sure, the workforce is getting upskilled while they are really doing the job without themselves knowing that they're actually getting upskilled?
Yeah. Actually leads to the next topic where in order for us to get into that incognito learning way of empowering ourselves and upskilling ourselves, what does it require? And this is again something that we can inculcate ourselves. Right now probably a lot of us are going with a fixed mindset of this is what we can do with certain things, or these are only the certain type of solutions that we can come up with. Need to break away from that mindset and see what else is possible, because the AI is helping us really expand our horizons. There's a lot of things that we can do now which is practically impossible maybe about a couple of years back, especially with Sora and all. Creating videos is like a matter of seconds we are able to generate video. So with those kind of technologies available, it is not practical for us to go with a really fixed mindset. We need to start thinking, and like Amith mentioned, right, it's important to be curious. We need to kind of make sure that we explore all the trends out there, keep discussing tools, keep building those communities by which we keep getting more information. And this is that personal learning ecosystems that I was which leads to it, where as human beings we need to create those ecosystems for ourselves. We need to create those. It's available out there, those communities, those tools and resources are already out there. It's our intention that matters, of making sure we are accessing those, learning from it, and constantly changing the way we think and do things. And yeah, that eventually leads to a future sensing mindset, because as we keep reading about stuff, getting those data points, obviously we'll start seeing in some way that this is how the future is going to unfold, and we can be prepared more that way once we know that this is how things are going to work out. Any thoughts, guys, on this? Like, I think I've kind of covered it pretty much.
No, Vishak, I think you nailed it. Yeah.
Thank you. I think this is just a high level view of what it means to, work with AI. So right now, a lot of people are thinking that it's more about, a competition. AI would be able to do more than I can, and they are able to, do things in a shorter period of time. But no, it is about us and AI working together, because AI can only do so much that we ask it to do, right? I mean, we are the subjective first person experience that gives instructions to the AI models and tells that, okay, this is what you need to do. So for us, we need to get into that mindset where we believe that it's a partnership between these models, between us, and we kind of figure out what are our original abilities, innate human abilities that we got to work on, and let the tasks that AI can handle, let them handle it, and let's kind of work together so that we build that kind of a synergy, right, where we have certain things we are able to kind of create, ideate, conceptualize, We will use AI tools during these processes, and post that, development wise, we cut down on the time. That's what I'm seeing in the last 6 months since tools have come. Our ways of working, creating learning experiences have, the time has been cut down tremendously. I mean, I can create a learning experience in a matter of maybe like half an hour, if I have the right tools available with me. And I'm not joking about this, I can. But yes, I would need to have that cognitive ability to understand what it's creating. Is it really accurate? Is it really relevant? And for that, I need to connect with other human beings. I need to get their perspective. And that's how we work through this together. So it's definitely an enhanced potential that we are walking into as we move forward. Important thing is for us to personally and as organizations move in, to understand, how can we use this technology to its best possible, advantage.
Yeah, Vishak, now that you said about that AI, you have to work along with it. I mean, Microsoft has introduced Copilot, right? I mean, the term Copilot itself, it means that, it is going to drive along with you, and not that, it is the pilot. Okay. So I think, we all need to really understand that, how do we really leverage the AI technologies and the whole changing landscape, and then how do we go along with it rather than thinking that it's a competition. I think we have to work together than working against each other. So yeah.
Yeah. Again, this is a culmination of what we have been speaking so far in terms of some mindset shifts that are required. Kavitha, I believe you were talking about, how we need to move into that continuous learning, not just short, whatever learning nuggets or e-learning modules that we are throwing onto learners and saying that take this, but rather than that, creating that kind of an overall learning journey for them. Throughout their work and throughout their lives, they would get, some sort of a prompt or an urge to kind of upskill themselves, and we kind of create that environment for them. Push pull, basically, like, we are pushing things onto learners. How do we kind of create that pull mechanism, that gravity of learning that you're talking about? And obviously, as in, the main thing is not just by knowing. So far we have been working on this thing that let's get our learners to know about these things, but it's more about growing. So they need to have that context, they need to have that awareness, they need to see where they fit in that overall scheme of things. So shift from knowing to growing. And I think this is something that you were talking about, Kavitha, that just now, that it's not about, where we are competing with AI, it's about where we are augmenting ourselves using this technology, right? So it's a huge, these four key shifts in mindset are what is required for us, both as individuals, working professionals, as well as for L&D teams also, where how we move into the next way of, doing things. So that's mainly it what we have. I have some immediate actions that you can think of from this. Is one is to kind of audit your own ecosystem, and this is applicable both to your individuals as well as the learning design professionals. Individuals can take a look at what's happening around them and see that, do you have the right tools necessary? Are you making use of the right opportunities? Like Amit mentioned, there are forums and discussion groups and sites where you can get a lot of information of what's happening out there. So we should do that. We should be more aware. And as learning design professionals, are we, is the ecosystem that you or your clients, are in, is it really helping the learners in the course? Is it something that we can do? Maybe some recommendations that we can provide ultimately comes from us. We are the ones who are kind of designing these experiences. So it's important to kind of audit what's happening right now, take stock of our current situation. The second one is very important, unlearning opportunities, where we need to figure out, that certain things are very rigid in the way we are thinking. Where all can we kind of broaden our horizons, our perspectives, and this involves getting out there and really uh, being aware of what's happening out there. So it's important, and creating those moments, either periodic moments, daily, weekly, whatever, to make sure that you're clearing off some of that old junk within us and giving us enough space to kind of bring in new learnings. uh, Assess learning gravity. Yes, take a look at all the learning experiences that we are creating, all the modules and all the sessions that we have been arranging, and see if there is anything more we can do in terms of putting it out there to the learner, saying that you need this. If you take this exercise, or if you take this module, or if you sit for this class, this is what's going to happen, in a nice way, in a way that really clicks with the learners, not in a kind of formal way, but really something that relates to the learners. So that gravity is something that we can really analyze. And last but definitely not the least, form habits regular every day. And this is something that I tell myself, because I know that I definitely need a lot of self-discipline in various cases. But yeah, so little things that if we can do in a day-to-day manner, I think that adds up to great impacts, over a period of time. So yeah, let's go ahead and make those habits come alive. Um, I'll just stop back and just check. Amith, Kavitha, do you have anything to add over here apart from what I've written?
No, Vishak, I think, unlearning, trying to use the technologies, trying to see how to use the technologies to make your learning more of a pull kind of experience, and then, constantly look for, upskilling yourselves. And, those are the key takeaways, I think, from me, and for me also from this webinar. And I I don't think I have anything else to add. I've been responding to some Q&A questions on the chat as well,
See that.
because
Thank you so much.
yeah, and there is a lot for us to explore as L&D professionals, at this point in time, and see how best we can use these technologies. And I'm really excited to see what's next for all of us here. And in the next few webinars sessions, I think we're going to go more specifically into certain case studies and scenarios about how we have implemented certain things for some of our clients and organizations that we worked with. And yeah, I'm really excited for the future sessions, and hopefully everybody who's joined today has enjoyed what we presented. And if you have any questions, I think you can always ping us on LinkedIn, or write to us. Yeah, drop us an email, and we can get back to you.
There are some things that we are planning as kind of takeaways. So we have your contact details. We are putting together some resources that can help you think further on what kind of strategies that you can use within your organizations, or within your as a personal this thing. If you can get into that growth mindset, into that way of thinking about designs and how to help your learners and such. So we are putting together some guides, some templates that you can use to tell your clients, have a conversation with your clients or your stakeholders on how to kind of bring in AI assistance, how to build in a learning framework that is really helpful for your learners. Also some recommended reading, some resources that we are curating that will help you on this, as well as some very interesting assessment tools that we are putting together that will help you as well as your organization understand exactly where you are in terms of AI readiness, and what can you do to kind of improve upon that. Be ready when we are in the middle of an AI revolution. Let me get that absolutely straight. We are right in the middle of it. So how we can proceed in a good way, in a very beneficial way, that's something that we are looking into, and we will have some assessments ready that will help you understand where exactly you stand. So really excited for the whole thing. Is there something that we can do in terms of taking questions or something? Sid, just wanted to check.
Yes, Vishak, we have answered everything which is down there on the Q&A section.
Okay. Great. So in case if anybody has any queries, you know how to reach us. Please do drop us a message, and we would be happy to, have a personal connect with you and see how we can take this forward. But I really hope everybody had a great time. I hope this was educational, inspirational in some way. Hoping we can get into that mindset shift as soon as possible. Yeah.
So I'm able to see and understand how the inside of the cabin, of all of your cabin looks like when I will having the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Vishak. Thank you, Siddhant, for the great conversation today. And then we'll all see you in the next webinar very soon.
And the next ones are going to be really, really interesting because we're going to really dial down on the specifics. We're going to talk about specific tools. We're going to talk about specific processes that these tools map to and help. So please dial into the future webinars as well. That's going to be a lot more interesting with some real life examples, case studies, etc. So this was just to introduce the fact that AI is penetrating into the learning industry really fast and thick. You have to get on the bus if you haven't already yet, and you have to get on the bus and stay on the bus for some time. So I think that's the message that we want to send across with this webinar. The next few webinars, as I mentioned, is going to get to some real specifics, and I can't wait for us. We might have some other team members join us. We're going to talk about specific tools and give walkthroughs of how we do things here at Apposite. We'd love to hear your views. If there are specific things that you want us to try out, we will try out those things on our side, and we will come back and present it to you. So please put it down in your Q&A or chat with us or send an email to us. We'd be more than happy to try some of the new tools out, some new methodologies out. So please use us as a resource. But whatever happens, please share the word around AI and how AI is going to penetrate every part of your life. If you don't know it yet, it has already penetrated your life in various ways. A simple way is to look at your banking sector, look at the stock market, you look at the marketing sector, and all of them are adopting AI in one form or the other. We know of financial organizations that are building their own co-pilots to help them navigate this time. So you will see a lot more. With that, on that note, I think we're signing off. If anyone has any last words, please feel free. But otherwise, it was really exciting. 1 hour. We didn't really know how the time flew. So thank you so much for that, and look forward to the next webinar.
Thanks, Amith. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sid. Thanks, Kavitha. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.